Hello, I'm here today with my good friend John Slocum. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Tim. Good to be here. Thank you.
So we're going to brag about him a little bit. So I didn't think he would just say it on his own. So I'm going to ask a few questions. But tell me what Southlake was like in 1994 when you and Linda moved here.
It was small, not a lot going on, but you could see the future. They had the zoning restrictions were such that we knew that the community was going to be a wonderful place to raise a family. We moved into a community called Tiburon. We were one of the first ones to move in. We knew that was going to be kind of the hub of the residential, and even to this day, it's the largest community in Southlake. Now,
it's right here, right behind us.
1,560, yeah, right here behind us, 1,560 homes or so. So, ever since, we've been excited. I mean, we haven't, we're a single nester now, but we won't move. We won't move out of Tiburon. It's wonderful.
So the thing that I've learned about John Slocum is that he is the type of guy that can make things happen. He worked at Waste Management. Wayne Huizenga would run around the country and buy up all these garbage collecting business, and he was the guy that had to clean up afterwards and integrate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I started with, I was in public accounting for 4 years, and then a good friend of mine went to work for this new company called Waste Management, and they asked me if I would want to join and be part of their acquisitions group, and I, of course, said no. I didn't want to be a garbage man. But ultimately, they came back and they made the job and the salary so attractive, I couldn't turn them down.
So Huizenga's notorious for Blockbuster, rolling up all the Blockbuster, small mom and pop video, Waste Management. The garbage collection business was very fragmented, and they rolled it up. So how many different places did you and Linda move?
During our career with Waste Management, we moved 11 times.
Wow.
Including Saudi Arabia for 3.5 years, Germany, London, plus Utah, Arizona, California, Ohio. We were everywhere. And it was quite an experience. It really was.
So the thing I like about John on that is there's doers and there's talkers, and if you're the guy that's willing to uproot your family and move 11 places and integrate all these different businesses, then getting a couple things done in Southlake is like your life prepares you to get that done. So talk about in 2005 when you joined the Parks Board.
Yeah, when I retired in about 2007, 2008, my wife was very nervous, and I was concerned about what I was going to do with my life, because I've been.
Was she nervous that you're going to be around the house too much?
Yeah, I was going to be around the house too much, and her first statement when I started talking about retirement, even before I retired, was that, I married you for better or for worse, but remember, I didn't marry you for lunch. So that meant I got to stay out of the house, and when I do retire, got to have my own stuff to do. So I immediately started looking for things to do, even while I was employed, just to kind of transition into retirement. And one of those things was to join the Parks Board, Parks and Rec Board in Southlake.
And that timing was like 05, or was it later?
About 05.
Okay.
And once I was on there, I was passionate about children.
Yep.
And just wanted to make sure that I could help any way I could to make sure that we had facilities for our children to play sports. And one of the key goals of the whole Parks Board at the time was to make sure that every child in Southlake had something they could do.
John, you've said this many times to me that you were really proud of the Southlake forefathers and the people that have come before you and I, laying out so much land that was so thoughtful. It reminds me up in Chicago how they had the nature preserves, with you and I both being from there, and I always thought that was genius because you can't ever retake the land. Can you speak to that a little?
Yes, yes. I was really impressed, and every presentation I make, I reiterate this, that it's very easy for city councils to focus on growth. New businesses coming in, new housing developments, but to pull back a little bit and restrain the growth so that you make sure you've got enough property for future, for parks development, recreation, walking trails, bike trails, what have you, was really a significant part of the success of South Lake. It's great, and I think, because of that, that foresight years ago, we are, if not the top city in the area, one of them.
Can you speak to how the city was smart with sales tax to make sure that the more parks and facilities we built, that the more people would come, the more they'd spend, and the more it would just be a self-funding thing? What did they do on that?
Yeah, there's the sales tax. A piece of the sales tax goes to what we call as a separate corporation. It's called the South Lake Parks Development Corporation, SPDC for short. And they are the manager of the sales tax funds that are designated for parks and recreation. And as the city grew, the sales tax revenues that went towards parks and recreation grew as well. And with that, they could then start developing some of that vacant land that they set aside for parks. And
Like Bicentennial, the tennis.
yeah, Bicentennial was there when I got here. It was one of the first parks, if not the first park in South Lake. But expanding Bicentennial, making it more continuity, making it better for everybody, all ages. They decided to do that, plus little neighborhood parks that they built.
Lacrosse fields, world class.
One of the last big developments was on Dove Road, North Park it's called. They built absolutely beautiful lacrosse fields, because lacrosse started to grow pretty fast, and we had, on the Parks Board, had established certain guidelines for the lacrosse association before we could start spending a lot of money to build a new field. They met those goals, and we built them a beautiful park on Dove Road. And we also use it for flag football, but not nearly to the extent that we use that for lacrosse.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's got to be one of the best facilities in Texas. So, talk to us about Miracle League. I mean, I'm super impressed. I mean, I believe the numbers, we have less than 500 special need kids in South Lake, but you managed to make sure that they had a unique place. And you got to give the city credit. Typically they try to do what's going to do the most for the masses, but on this one, they did really what was the right thing.
Yes, I think as part of the Parks Board, as I mentioned earlier, our goal was to make sure that every child had something to do.
Yeah.
And, we weren't aware, the Parks Board was not aware of how many special needs children we had in South Lake. So one day, while we were working on a 5-year plan, we asked the Special Services Department which is part of Carroll School District, how many children they had in special needs, and they said it was 762.
Okay, I was off a little.
And that was a shocking number.
Yeah.
Here's a group of children, 762 in fact, that we hadn't done anything for. So the fact that we were right in the midst of redoing Bicentennial Park, reorganizing it, adding some features, updating, adding new ball fields and concession stands, we thought we needed to do something for the special needs children. So we had heard about, from our developer that was helping us, the architect for the Bicentennial upgrade, he had just finished a park in Houston called the Miracle Field. He told us about it, and that kind of started the ball rolling as far as us building a Miracle Field in South Lake for these children.
Wow.
And it's been wonderful.
And that was Miracle League opened in what year?
We started playing ball in the fall or October of 2015.
Okay.
So it took a while. It took almost 9 years from conception to execution.
That's one of my favorite things about you, though, is you're a dog with a bone.
No, it was.
When you get your mindset, you're going to make things happen. So, I commend
Well,
you on that.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the city supported it. We then had a great board that we developed. We filed to be a 501c3, so we had all the basics done so that we could begin to solicit contributions and grow this thing.
Talk about that annual pilgrimage to Cooperstown now, and how special that is.
Well, as part of Cooperstown, through some friends, the Sicconis, who have gone to Cooperstown, their sons, they got to know the owners of Cooperstown, Lou and Linda Presutti, and through them, we invited Lou to come and give a speech at opening day for the Miracle Field, and he did that. It was the first time he had been on an airplane in 10 years. He had stopped flying, but he flew here to be part of the opening of this Miracle Field.
Let me guess, you strongly encouraged him to come down here.
Yeah, we strongly encouraged him to come.
You're very good at strongly encouraging.
Yeah. So he came, presented it, and he was so excited about what he saw with the field, the game, the kids, the enthusiasm of parents, grandparents, everybody. He asked the mayors, and at that opening we had both Mayor Terrell and Mayor Hill there, because they were just transitioning from one to the other. And he said, I want Southlake to be part of Cooperstown.
Baseball Hall of Fame.
And, you know, take the kids to the Hall of Fame, which is right there. And, you know, that was probably one of the most rewarding moments in my tenure on the Parks Board, was having that invitation.
Wow.
And of course, we took advantage of it.
Sure.
And as a result, for the last 2 years, we've been able to have two of our special needs players with special needs go to Cooperstown and be part of a team as assistant coaches. They're on the field, they do everything the players do. The only difference is they stay with their parents at night.
Yeah.
But they practice with the team, they're on the field, in the dugout. When the team's practicing, they're out there with the team and eat lunch, eat meals with them. I mean, it's just a wonderful experience.
That's great.
So we've done that for 2 years now, and now our goal is to grow that program to the point where we have enough players with special needs, assistant coaches, you might say, there in the same week that we can have a game among the assistant coaches. And once that happens, that will be the kind of the culminating experience of Cooperstown for special needs children, and that's kind of the direction I'm heading. I can't wait for that to happen, and we're going to start moving forward on that this year.
That's great. So what's neat is, you know, John, you focus on 762 kids that you don't want to leave behind, and that's leading us to something, you know, we're going from something that was a small group of people and making them just as important as the masses. And now you and I are talking about something for the masses, for kids, for adults, for everything. So you joined the Parks Board, or I'm sorry, the Nature Center in what, 2016?
At the end of 2016.
And what was your motivation for joining that?
Well, again, it's all about children. You know, we have camps and classes for the children, and I just wanted to be part of that. I wanted to make sure that we were doing everything we could do to make that happen, to have them have the classes, to have trails available for them to walk, and our residents. I mean, the Nature Center, sure, we have classes, but we also have lots of trails that the city has continually increased, so that the city grows with this, and we can provide that to people of all ages, and that's great.
One thing John told me that I didn't realize, I guess, you know, if you just Google, you figure it out, but Central Park is roughly 800 acres, and Bob Jones Park is almost as big. It's about 700 acres, correct?
750, yeah.
So you think about the forethought of the folks in New York to take this massive piece of nature. Think about how different Manhattan would be if they didn't preserve that. And think about how different Southlake would be if the city founders weren't wise enough to keep this pristine 700 acres still available.
You're right. It's just that's just part of the overall philosophy in the past. And because of our reputation and the success of South Lake, our commitment to maintaining this kind of pristine property, we were fortunate enough to be able to lease core property right along the water, and
Is it 25 years?
for 25-year
Yeah.
lease, and that kind of help us have trails closer to the water with maybe gazebos, make it a spectacular trail system.
So here's the business side of both John and I own a number of businesses, and obviously John's done extremely well with waste management. But what's the problem we continually have at Bob Jones Park?
We need revenue.
Yeah.
And I was so happy when Tim accepted a position on the Nature Center board, because your enthusiasm and optimism and energy towards helping find something has really been rewarding. And so I felt that you and I as a team could really make some headway in figuring out how we can grow in the future.
John's Batman, I'm Robin, though. He's doing the heavy lifting here. So John and I got together and we thought, hey, we can solve a lot of challenges all in one, and also leave a legacy piece for people that have silver hair like John and I. And what we've come up with is the sanctuary in South Lake. It's a non-denominational facility to host weddings and unfortunately some funerals in the future. But more importantly, it's going to be a perpetual revenue stream for Bob Jones Park. I look at Bob Jones Park as like the kid that goes away to college that you constantly need to send money to. And we're ready for Bob Jones Park to hold its own. And if when we get this sanctuary built, it will be something we can rent out perpetually, and Bob Jones Park can then end up being profitable and hold its own and grow up. So speak more towards the sanctuary at South Lake.
I think, when we first started thinking about this, the idea just kind of exploded in our heads, because here's something that can work, that we need. We don't have a sanctuary where people can go, it's quiet, in the woods, and have a nice, comfortable wedding, or anniversary, or funeral, or whatever we have. So we took the initiative to go to Arkansas, where there are several of these sanctuaries in existence today, and we toured them and took some pictures, and we've got pictures of the inside and outside of one of them.
How moving was it? I mean,
you
and I both were just.
It was unbelievably moving. Because this is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
And we've got the facility that would fill those goals to the T.
Yeah.
And in talking to the people, they have over 300 weddings a year in one shop, one facility. It becomes obviously a large business in and of itself. And this is what we need. I think we've got the support here in South Lake with big hotels close by, Hilton, the Westin that's coming, and to support this,
Cambria.
the new Cambria that just opened. So we've got facilities that can support the banquet piece of these weddings without a lot of problems and a lot of logistical issues. A little bus can bring people from hotels to here and back to the hotel, and it would work out perfect.
We've got the #1 school district out of, I think, 963. South Lake Carroll's #1. We got the best tennis facility, lacrosse, baseball fields. And if we do this right, it'll either be a wood or a steel structure with glass and stone and nature. There's some people who want to get married on a beach, and there's some people who want to get married in the woods, and some people want to get married in a traditional church, and that's fine. But for the folks that want the nature, there's nothing like it. And when we were in Arkansas, what we didn't think about, there's lots of things we didn't think about, but
I know. It's exciting. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's just.
Talk about the anniversary, how people come back.
We had, when we were at one of these chapels, some people had just driven in, and they had married here 7 years ago. So here they were driving back to the chapel 7 years after their wedding to re-look and re-experience that wedding that they had. I mean, and this is just one example of what's going to happen. People come back for anniversaries. They want their friends to come and see where they got married because it's so beautiful and it's so in the open. I mean, it's just I just can't say enough about it.
So I owe John $100. We bet who would be the first one to cry, and so I'm not. He's doing 90% of the talking, and I'm the one crying over here. Let's get back to the economics of it. So maybe I'll knock the emotion out of it. But I think was it 1/4 of 1 cent. So 25% of a penny goes back from sales tax back into Park and Rec. Correct?
Park and Rec. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're having these large weddings and people are staying at our hotels, they're eating at our restaurants, they're catering at the hotels, this will be, if you build it, they will come. Once we have this structure in place, we're going to have a lot of tourism, a lot of visitors, a lot of people spending money in South Lake. So it's one of these programs that we win on so many different levels. We take advantage of our 700 acres. We create a legacy piece for guys with silver hair.
Yeah.
We create a real memorable thing for the community, but more importantly, I want when people Google South Lake, Texas, I want this gorgeous sanctuary just to dominate the web, and it's just one more feather in the South Lake cap of all the great things they've done. And we've got this 700 acres in Bob Jones. It's going to be what we're focusing on next.
Yeah.
So let's do it first class.
We met with an architect that was involved with several of these sanctuaries in Arkansas. And he happened to be coming here to help his daughter get set up in a housing in Dallas. And so we met with him, went over our thoughts, showed him some of the area where we might want to build this thing if it's approved, and just get some thoughts about what he wanted. And he was so excited about the land and the area that we'll be walking through to get to the chapel. And we'll have, gravel roads, walkways, and it'll be like a whole new world. And people will be getting married in this fantasy world.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be wonderful. And like Tim said, South Lake has historically done everything above and beyond. I mean, everything
Absolutely.
South Lake has, whether it's ball fields, tennis courts, lacrosse fields, anything, it's done as good as it can happen. And we think that this, being part of the city, done as well as the standard that they've already set, would really help us bring not only people to the sanctuary, but it would also start bringing a lot more people to the nature center.
Absolutely.
And
it becomes a destination.
It becomes a destination, and that's what we really need to do. We need people to come, bring their kids, walk the trails, go to the classes, and also then get married here or have their event here. It's just this to me is exactly the standard that South Lake has set for everything else.
I totally agree, and I think it's a legacy piece.
Yeah, I mean it really is, and I think we'll we're working now on guidelines that we can help put this into a 5-year plan and make it something that gets started. That we can look at the architect that knows what he's doing, that will do some preliminary drawings for us. He can, he'll help pull that together, cost estimates together,
Sure.
some thoughts on trails and getting back to it. So we're hoping with the next 5-year plan that the city
In
has,
October, correct?
Which, well, now that will probably be started now in April.
Okay.
So
Soon enough, though.
But we're going to get started. We're going to get started with the drawings, the cost estimates, and everything October, November timeframe. So when we really kick it in gear for the 5-year plan, the official time, we've got all the information we need to kind of get it on the front burner.
The other thing that John and I talked about, we're business guys through and through, so we're trying to think, how can we fund this thing? This shouldn't be a huge burden on the city of Southlake, and we thought about benches both inside the sanctuary and outside with naming rights, donation rights. The architect and his wife, lovely wife Alice, taught us is in the last one they did in Hot Springs, they had a bride house where they got together for the wedding, and a groom house. So there could be potential sponsorship or naming rights on both of those. Fountains, bird feeders, and just general people that want to donate. On our webpage for the Southlake Sanctuary, there's going to be some premium sponsors that are paid annually for that. So we're not saying, hey, John and I got this idea and City of Southlake pay for it. We're looking at this as both private donations and public money, correct?
Right. We see this as being a joint effort between the city and the private sector, and I think it can work. I think the city has some matching funds programs that can be utilized to help pay for parts of this thing, and I just think that the concept itself will excite a lot of people that want to be part of this.
Well, everyone I've talked about, is people want to donate to it.
Yep.
They want to be a part of it.
People want to be a part of it, and the more we get it out, if we can get the drawings, preliminary drawings, out in October, November, and start really pushing this thing, then come April when the 5-year plan starts, we'll be right in the front row.
Absolutely.
Ready to go.
John, congratulations. You didn't cry. I did twice, maybe 2.5 times. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I am just so happy that we were able to get Tim on the Nature Center board. And
you guys lowered the criteria enough. I just squeaked in.
Yeah, he squeaked in with our criteria. But I know the enthusiasm that he has is contagious, and I think that together we're going to be able to get this thing done. And I appreciate all your
appreciate
energy.
you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Please consider the sanctuary at Southlake. It's a legacy piece, and it's just one more crown jewel in the Southlake legacy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.